questions, quick
Yeah,
answers.
quick questions. Okay. Okay, no, I have questions. Maybe we can discuss, because I want to bring it back to the nanomedicine, because the meeting here is on clinical nanomedicine. So what Scott presented, Scott, you presented about the, CERCES and general regulatory science. So what is the specific, do you have any specific courses or things that you are offering in nanomedicine side? On nanomedicine, nanotechnology, because University of Rochester has a lot of training.
Yeah, particularly in the toxicology area and environmental health and safety. So as we've structured the program, I think those would be more an elective course for students as we've developed. I mean, as I outlined, I think the idea is that most students would be doing a research project, whether their PhD is in toxicology or whatever the field is, and they're doing nanotechnology for their primary thesis research, and our program would complement that by providing some of those other competencies, but they would be specializing in a nanomedicine, a nano-focused project.
And then I have one more question on the ASTM E56 Committee on Nanotechnology in U.S. has they have best. Okay, so I'll just stand here. Maybe
Here, you want.
So the question is, so as we develop these courses at different universities, there is a minimum standard that is required for best practices, because different universities have different levels of coursework. So there is a committee in E56 that came up with workforce training guidelines. So are you aware of that? And then you plan on incorporating any of those into the workforce training as you develop these, even EduNano project? Of course, it is in Israel, but it is international at the end of the day. Jack?
You want to?
Yeah.
Same with TC 229, the ISO.
Yeah.
That's
ISO TC 229.
Keep contact all the time as they're coming out, the ready material, so that would help a lot.
Frank, you have a comment? Okay, no. So let me ask another question to Dr. Professor Owen. So now you presented on the PBPK. Okay, now if you have a nanomedicine, these questions come up. These are more complicated. Okay, PBPK itself is complicated to start with. But if you take a platform of nanomedicine where you have multiple drugs, and then each drug influences the other drug. So are there any examples of conducting PBPK studies on multi-drug containing nanoparticles?
So the simple answer is no, not that. But it's doable. So I think, so there's sorry, Lou, are you aware of PBPK models of?
Yes, there are some. Actually, we did it several years ago.
Okay.
It's sort of limited to independent composites, but I can direct you to the appropriate. Was it Don Mager in Buffalo University?
Okay. So obviously, so the way we're approaching it from an efficacy perspective, we need to consider the drug. But obviously, from a safety perspective, you need to consider the carrier material as well. And we've just established a quite unique facility in Liverpool in terms of UK academia, which is a radio materials chemistry laboratory, in order for us to get an in vivo handle on distribution of multiple components of a nanomedicine platform material. So, we're just at the stage now where we're getting to a point where we're able to trace multiple components in vivo for a multi-component nanomaterial. And then once we have that in place, we'll have a system to be able to validate PBPK model predictions, which are looking at those multi-component materials. So.
Thank you. And by the way, FDA has a lot of training opportunities as this topic is something that we are discussing. We have a Commissioner's Fellowship program that brings in maybe 25 people every year for training, regulatory training for 2 years. And then they do coursework at Johns Hopkins University, but also regulatory training in one of the research labs or regulatory labs at FDA. So, so we have those training opportunities. Obviously, we have a lot of training for postdocs. We have hundreds of postdocs that work at FDA on many research projects. I have opening in nanomedicine for 6 postdocs in my lab if you know anyone who is interested. So we have a lot of training opportunity in regulatory science within FDA, and then a lot of people get the training and then go elsewhere. So Jack, you...
Maybe it would be a good idea to make a database of all open source available trainings, educations, in all issues related to nanosciences. I mean, I can hear now that FDA and universities working and creating content, and sometimes this content is in parallel, and it's a waste of efforts if we can find or establish some repository in our database just linking so people can be able. I think in Europe there is such an initiative which called Eurotraining, which aggregates all the open source online learning. Maybe such an initiative for nano can be also useful.
Yeah, absolutely. There is a University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill has a course, 3-day course on nanomedicine, and I think they can make it publicly available. Maybe we should ask them to do that.
Maybe we can cooperate. I mean, we can
Definitely.
cross-link the content.
Yeah, there's a member of our CTSA consortium that's trying to build a federated system, so you could just, they don't have to house all the content. You can decide what you're going to share.
Cross-link, that's what I done.
Yes,
Yeah.
I think it's...
So our colleague Frank is drawing something on the board. If you can direct your camera.
I know we don't have much time left, but one of the things that I wanted to point out in terms of a database, in a way the Commissioner's Fellowship and all other FDA fellowships are on FDA websites. But as I pointed out many times, FDA is not a monolithic structure, and we have different websites for the different centers. And it's sometimes very difficult to find because Googling is not easy, and Google doesn't find everything. So what we decided is essentially to create clones of all the websites in a non-for-profit organization as an educational training hub, information hub, which is an acronym called IRI. And its access is for free. You just have to register. For all of those who want to find information on FDA, at FDA websites, and you don't find it, this thing is a complete clone of all FDA public information that is searchable in a structured way, so you also can create your own search structure. And the search engine behind it is better than Google.
Okay.
Well, again, I thank all the speakers again for excellent discussion. And please join me in thanking the speakers today. Close the session. Thank you.